Segment 3 Gold and Black Live. Andrew Pogar in studio and Brian Neubert somewhere. Where are you, Brian? You're on your way to Madison, I know, but have you made it into Wisconsin yet?
Yeah, I'm a little bit north of Janesville.
Ah, so you're not
if
too
that
far.
means anything to anyone.
Not too far from Madison, and the weather's great up there right now, or has it started to snow?
Right now it's good, but I don't really want to talk about it.
No, you never get away with
Let's just leave that one alone.
Yeah, I was going to say, you never get away with a winter of, it was going so well. and I'm afraid tomorrow will be a little bit of a challenging trip home, hopefully not too much. But, Brian, Purdue obviously a big challenge itself tonight in one of those rare Friday night games, but 9 o'clock start against Wisconsin. Tell me what you think in terms of where this team is right now. Obviously, on the heels of a somewhat one-sided loss. Certainly, the second half it was that way at Michigan State. But tell me what you think you'll see tonight.
What I think I'll see tonight is I think Purdue is the same team it was a couple weeks ago in terms of its ability to win these sorts of games on the road. I don't think really there was anything that happened at Michigan State that led you to believe that this is a team that is ready to win games like this. It's halfway through the season, so that's not exactly what Purdue wants to hear being said about it, but that seems to be its reality right now. Now, at Michigan State, Purdue really did none of the things it had to do to have a chance to win that game, yet it was still within 4 there with 11 and a half minutes to go. But what they have to do before worrying about any of that other stuff is they have to find a certain sort of composure, a certain sort of poise, the sort of thing they've not had really all year playing away from Mackey Arena, or at least playing in true road environments. Obviously, Purdue being 0-4 on the road, they have lacked something. They've had opportunities to win some of those games, but they haven't because they have lacked this certain something. And there was no one reason, really, Purdue lost that game in Michigan State. There were a lot of them. But obviously, the position Carson Edwards is in, his stature on this team, the simple reality that he affects everything for this team, both tangible and intangible, Purdue just needs something better there. We sort of talked before the season about how different his role would be, and he didn't really, as I didn't expect him to. He's not the most forthcoming individual, but the one thing he did say at Big Ten Media Day was, what this season comes down to for me is making the best decision every time. And that just isn't happening. And when you look at Michigan State, when you look at the 13 threes he took, I went back and itemized them, and I think maybe 4 of them were good shots. And his definition of good shot is very different than it is for 99% of the playing population because he's so talented, because he's so capable of making those shots. When you look at his 4 turnovers, all of them were caused by him dribbling into a second defender. A number of those instances, there was the player that the second defender came off of right there, ready for an easy pass that might have led to a bucket, at least would have got the ball moving, got somebody a good shot. He didn't play with the sort of poise and the sort of decision-making Purdue needed him to play with. And when the most influential and the highest usage player on the team and the best player on the team is playing like that, I don't know how you can expect the collective to do that. And that's just what has to change first and foremost for Purdue. They have to have a certain composure about them. They have to make good decisions, or else the results on the road, especially in big games on the road, and Purdue has to win some of these games to get in the NCAA tournament. There's no path to the NCAA tournament that doesn't involve them winning important road games. They're not going to win any of those games if they're playing with the sort of lack of composure and the sort of decision making that they've been playing with on the road to this point this season.
Brian, obviously Evan Boudreau is unavailable tonight. How does that change things heading into this game?
Well, do you want the 8-minute answer like I just gave to the first question?
We'll just stare at the camera.
Do you want something more succinct? How does that change things? That's a good question. Obviously, this is not the matchup necessarily where you want to throw a freshman out there against Ethan Happ, but that's obviously Travion Williams is going to play a lot. He's earned that opportunity. He's playing really well, trending upward. having him out there to start the game on Ethan Happ is putting him in a tough spot. Ethan Happ is so quick and so savvy, and when you see all of the good things Travion Williams did at Michigan State, a lot of that stuff came back too because Michigan State was able to exploit him a little bit on defense. They started going quick into their post moves to prevent Purdue from getting a double team there. I thought late Michigan State was quicker in the post than he could defend. I think that they were able to exploit that, but they were also maybe able to exploit his conditioning a little bit there. Obviously, he played more minutes than he played all season long. He could not have been defending at an optimal level there late in the second half. Michigan State was really able to take advantage of that with Ethan Happ and his quickness and his footwork and his just movement and his very atypical physical ability. That's putting him in a really tough spot. Him and Matt Harms, obviously, without Evan Boudreau, are going to have to carry huge minutes. Foul trouble is not something Purdue wants to encounter again. A game after Matt Harms got in foul trouble at Michigan State really affected them, I thought, because I thought Harms did some pretty positive things in his 7 minutes. But I think they want to keep Matt Harms coming off the bench. I think bringing him off the bench has brought something out of him that starting didn't. And I think they'd probably ideally like to keep him in that role. So I think they're probably going to jump Travion Williams from 3 to 1 in terms of the hierarchy. By 3, I mean he was the third guy coming in at center. Now I think he's probably in line to start tonight. I could be wrong. That's just kind of my guess. Painter seemed to agree with the basic premise of that yesterday. But they can't get in foul trouble, and I think they need to make Ethan Happ defend too. And I think Travion Williams, that's something Purdue's going to want to do. They're going to want to make Ethan Happ guard him in the post too, try to wear him down a little bit. Now, this is also a guy who's going to be one of the front runners probably for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So throwing the ball in the post to Travion Williams against Ethan Happ is a perilous endeavor at times as well. But Purdue has to survive that matchup. Ethan Happ is really, really good. He has run circles around Purdue big men in the past. Obviously less mobile big men than Purdue has right now in Matt Harms, but Travion Williams isn't exactly that style of center either. So he's going to have a pretty significant quickness advantage there. Purdue just has to survive that. They have to not foul him over and over again, not because they want to keep Ethan Happ off the foul line, which obviously they do, even though he's not a good foul shooter, but also just to not have that rack up on them and end up sending Wisconsin to the foul line over and over again for no good reason.
Yeah, and of course, Wisconsin had a big addition from an injury last year. Dimitri Trice comes back. His brother, Travis, was a thorn in Purdue's side a couple of years ago, and this is a guy, though, that could be a difference maker. I mean, it's more than Ethan Happ for Wisconsin.
Yeah, and this is a game No-Gel Eastern's defense needs to show up. Obviously, he was assigned to Cassius Winston at Michigan State. Cassius Winston was the best player in the game, the most productive, the most influential player in the game. But when you itemize what Cassius Winston did, so much of what he got came off of offensive rebounds, came out of scramble mode for Purdue. I don't know if Cassius Winston got the 23 points, whatever it was, necessarily off of No-Gel Eastern. He got a couple of them, but not as much. If all things were being equal and Cassius Winston was having to get everything he got off of No-Gel Eastern, that game might have been a little bit different. I'm not saying Purdue would have won. I'm just saying that the game might have been a little bit different. That's the capability No-Gel Eastern has from a defensive perspective. And when you go into a game like this with Ethan Happ, you worry so much about Ethan Happ, the other guys can really, really hurt you. And Trice is very capable. He's averaging 14 points a game. He's I think, shooting 47% from three-point range. Not unlike his brother at Michigan State, who was a diabolical shot maker. But it's not just him either. It's Wisconsin's got guys all over the floor who can make shots. And when you double-team Ethan Happ and you don't close out, and Purdue has been as flawed a closeout team probably as I've seen cover Purdue in a decade and a half, they have to make sure that they don't give up open threes all over the place because they're too worried about Ethan Happ. And with Wisconsin playing at home, the percentages tend to be a little bit better. Purdue's just got a lot more to worry about in this game than Ethan Happ, and obviously Trice is a big part of that.
Yeah, obviously the last time Wisconsin played at home, they lost to Minnesota, and then the game before that, they lost to Western Kentucky. I don't know if you've watched those tapes, Brian, but I guess from what you've gathered, what did those opponents do right, and the reason why they pulled out the win?
You know, I didn't go back and watch those games. I didn't even look at the stats. I think Minnesota is very capable, though, of beating a lot of people. I don't think they're the best team in the Big Ten. I'm not sure they're an NCAA tournament team, but I know from what I have seen of them this season against other opponents, Jordan Murphy obviously is a stud.
Yeah.
They didn't have Amir Coffey most of the season last year. He was kind of coming in and out of the lineup, and you know, he was a big-time recruit for a reason, and he's a really talented player, a really talented scorer, and he has made them so much better this year than they were. And I just think that was probably an instance where it was Minnesota playing like Minnesota is now capable of, but they weren't last year because everybody was hurt. Probably more so than it was Wisconsin. But as I said before, I hadn't gone back and looked at it. I didn't watch the game. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, you look at that, and again, there's an opportunity. I mean, you start to look at the schedule in terms of those road games that are left. I mean, obviously Purdue has at least two of the most difficult ones, but they still have, the Boilermakers still have to go to Ohio State, still have to go to Indiana, obviously tonight against Wisconsin. So you're going to have some challenges down the line. All right, Brian, we're going to let you make the finish up the last 30 miles or so, or however far you've got to get to Madison, but safe travels. Most of all, safe travels tomorrow on your way back. Hopefully you've got some XM radio or something to listen to. It may take you a little while, but safe travels coming back.
All right, fellas, thanks.
All right, sounds good. Well, Andy, you look at this game tonight, and Purdue Brian talks about that composure. Is that what you're seeing, in terms of this team? Is that the missing ingredient? Is it making the right decisions at the right time? How do you view it?
I think that's one of the factors that's involved. I think I'm looking forward to seeing who steps up tonight.
Yeah.
Obviously, they need Carson to bounce back after having a season-low 11 points against Michigan State on 3 of 16 shooting, which Brian touched upon his shot chart. But someone needs to step up, whether that's an Aaron Wheeler, who really was a non-factor last game, Matt Harms, if he stays out of foul trouble, or Travion Williams builds off his last performance. Someone needs to compliment Carson tonight if they want to pull off that W at the Kohl Center, which has always been a tough place for them to get W's in.
Anybody,
So it's obviously a pivotal game. They don't want to drop to 0-5 in true road games and 9-7 overall, and I think they would be 2-3 in Big Ten play. They're just digging themselves in a much tougher hole when it comes Selection Sunday if they want to have that resume that shows the committee that they are a viable team to play in it.
All right. Well, we thank Andrew Pogar for stepping in today, and enjoyed having him on. We'll do it again as well. I want to thank our sponsors, also XXX on the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Hilton Garden Inn, when tomorrow's a big day. Stay at HDI tonight. State Farm agent Trent Johnson. TrentIsMyAgent.com. And, of course, John Basham, the good folks at Basham Reynolds, who will be are already busy working on that 2019-20 school year. We appreciate all of our sponsors. We want to thank Gordon and Chris and everybody else that helped us out today, and our friends here at WLFI. They always make this show easy for us. We'll be back next week. We'll have Tom Dienhart, who now is working with us at Gold and Black Illustrated and goldandblack.com. We're happy to have him aboard, and he will join us on the show as well. So have a great week, everybody. If you're in the Midwest, get your snowplow out or snow shovel, and we'll look forward to, and stay healthy out there, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week on Gold and Black Live.